Hello, everyone. Wanted to take a few minutes to introduce you to routine and make sure that you understand how to use it and some of the key features that sometimes are a bit hidden. And so, again, want to make sure that you know those so that they could become part of your daily workflow. So, the first aspect of routine is really all about centralization. The idea is that you can't plan what you cannot see. And so you should be able to have all of your tasks in one place so as to be able to effectively plan your work and your week. The problem is that your work is actually scattered around many services. Sometimes a request is going to come over your chat system. Sometimes an email is going to come with a request in it. And obviously, you have a lot of tasks living in your project management tool, assuming you work with the team. And obviously, also, a lot of things go through your head, and those need to be probably written down so that you can act upon those at some point. And so, routine has been designed to so as to centralize everything in one place. So, I'll start with the easier things, which are the integrations. I did mention chat, email, project management. And so we've started with Notion, which is a project management tool. I mean, it's used as a project management tool, even though it is very flexible. So you can use Notion to bi-directionally link your task from Notion to routine. And so if you change one or the other, it's automatically synchronized. And as you can see here, I've got my task coming from Notion as an example at the bottom as well. We will be adding other integrations with Gmail, with Slack, with Asana, ClickUp, and so on and so forth. In the meantime, you can use our Zapier integration, and we have provided a guide to connect more than 5,000 services online, and we have a catalog of pre-made zaps, so integrations that you can use with your favorite tools already. So that's for the integrations. With that, again, you bring everything in one place, and that's the goal of this first phase of routine. But I also mentioned that some things come from your mind. Sometimes when you are working on something, you think about, oh, I need to do this, and you don't want to interrupt your flow. You don't want to stop what you're doing to switch to your browser, maybe go to a website to then click on the button. It's just way too many steps, and it's just too many distractions, basically. So we provide a keyboard shortcut. So let me switch here. I'm going to put that here. As you can see right now, I'm not on the routine app. And if I use the keyboard shortcut that routine provides, which is control space, but you can remap it to whatever you want. If I use it, it's going to bring up what we call the dashboard. It is very fast and it works everywhere on your desktop. You don't have to be on routine. You could be working on a document or whatever, or even in a Zoom call, you can bring up that dashboard very quickly. And that dashboard contains both the task of the day that you need to do and the upcoming events. But also at the center, you've got what we call the console. And the console is here for you to capture your thoughts, idea, task, etc., etc., etc. So let me demonstrate quickly how to use it. The basic thing is whenever something pops into your head, you should unload it from your brain, because your brain is great for imagining solutions, but not great for remembering stuff. So use your computer for that, use routine. So let's say I need to buy a new computer. I just press enter, and as you see, it will be saved in my inbox. So the inbox, let me switch to the app. The inbox is the third icon. It's really an extension of your memory, so really a second brain. So use it to dump all of those ideas that you have, things to do that are not urgent. And from time to time, you will be able to process that inbox and decide what to do with those items. Could be it's already done, etc., etc. We'll see that later. So that's for things that are not urgent, not important. But sometimes you're thinking, oh, I've got something to do, but I need to do it like right now or today. It's really, really, really important that I see this so that I can do it once I'm done with the things that I'm doing right now. So maybe it could be something like call John, and you just type today, and you press enter to validate, and you press enter again to use the first option, which is create and schedule call John on July the 7th. The 7th. If I press enter and I open the dashboard once more, you can see that the task is here, which is on the today list. Likewise, if I go there, I can see that the task here. So that's for tasks that need to happen on a specific day. But you could have done the same thing with call John on Friday or on the 1st of September. Same thing. You can really specify a date. It's just that we have some shortcuts with today and tomorrow. Then sometimes you have a task which is not necessarily for today, but it's quite urgent. You want to keep that on your radar so that you can do it quite soon. Let's say, I don't know, this week or whatever. And so we have a second option, which is, I don't know, like come back to accountant, let's say. You've got the second one, which is called create and postpone. This one basically means I want to save that task in the week, which is July 4th to July 10th. And that's another option, which is to put a task in a specific week. And I'll explain more later. So basically, we have really three cases. Something is for whatever. It's not important, not urgent. You can leave it that on the side. You save it in your inbox, which is just typing something, enter. That's very quick. If you have something that you need to do on a specific day, you can specify a date with the on, tomorrow, today, Thursday, or with the shortcuts today or tomorrow. And for something that is really important to do soon, you can always use the second option, which is create and postpone for this week, which would be the same thing as saying this week. And likewise, the create and postpone, which is the first option, does exactly the same thing. So that's all for capturing. So you bring everything in routine, inbox, today, the week. You use your integrations with email, chat, project management to bring everything in one place, and you are good to go to have an overview of all of your tasks and effectively plan your work. Now that we have collected everything in one place, it's all about processing your inbox, which is something that you don't really. There is no rule. You can do that several times a day. Could be once a week. Could be once a month. It's really for you to pick your frequency. It's really like processing your emails. There is no rule. Some people like to do this very, very, very often every day, and some people prefer to stay focused. So you pick the time that you want to go through those items. Personally, I do it every 2-3 weeks. So I collect a lot of items because I know they are not important. So I prefer to stay focused on what matters. And every 2-3 weeks, I just clean that stuff and I decide where to organize. Some stuff goes into my project management with my team. Some stuff I move to my pages. Some stuff I've already done, and that's okay. And some things are no longer relevant. But you process every item one after another, and you decide what to do with it. Again, it could be just ticking the task. You can use the keyboard shortcut to go faster if you want. Let me add another one, called parents, let's say. You can move with the arrows. You can do command enter to open, etc., etc., etc. But the two important planning actions are schedule and postpone. And we already touched upon those, so I won't spend too much time, but basically either the task needs to happen on a specific date. You should probably schedule it for a specific day. Could be Thursday, could be Friday, could be tomorrow. You can really do what you want, and that's fine. But the other one is postponing. Postponing is different from snoozing that most of the other apps have. We are against snoozing at Routine because we think that it just leads to bad behavior. Basically, all the other tools have a snoozing functionality that by default put the task on next Monday. The problem is that come next Monday, you will have a list of tasks with the task that needs to be done on this specific date and all the tasks that you have snoozed to that date for reevaluation, for reassessing those tasks and deciding what to do with them. The issue is that from the start of the day, it's chaotic because you've got two different things mixed together. We don't think that's a good way to proceed. So that's why we have introduced a new concept, which is the batch. The batch is a list of tasks tied to a week. And when you postpone a task, you specify to which batch it should be, in which batch it should be put. So you specify a week, not a date, a week. So it could be this week, next week, in 2 weeks, etc., etc., etc. So let's say buy new computers in 2 weeks. This task will never appear here because that's going to be a specific date. However, it will be here in 2 weeks, which is buy new computer. So the point is that when you go through your inbox, you decide for every item what to do with it. Either it's important this to happen on a specific day, you schedule it, or you postpone it for reevaluation, so you will be able to take another decision. And you can also clean that stuff out. You can delete it, complete it, or whatever, depending, again, on the item. So try to do that from time to time, but it's really for you to pick your rate. Now that we've seen the inbox and how to process every item and decide what to do with them, it is time to plan your week. So once you've processed your inbox, you can go to your planner, which is, I don't know, it could be at the beginning of the day, it could be once a week on Sunday, could be from time to time, just to check what's coming up next in the coming days. So very busy people, in particular CEOs, executives, they really like this view because, as I mentioned earlier, you have the task of the week. So if I change week, the task change. So those are supposed to be completed this week, but I have not had to decide specifically on which day. And for people who have a very busy schedule and very chaotic lives, it's really, really handy because when they have time to breathe, then they can go back to the planner, look at their important tasks for the week, pick one or two, and complete them. Rather than select beforehand, organize their week neatly, and then everything goes to shambles because it's just way too complicated because the chaos kick in. So the idea is that this list should represent the task of the week that you haven't exactly decided when you should work on. That's it. And what you can do is leave them here, and from time to time, when you're focusing on your day, from time to time, you go back to the week and you just, okay, this one I should really do. Or you can plan more specifically your week ahead. So you could say, okay, this task, I'm going to schedule it for Friday. So I drag it, I drop it here, which is exactly the same thing as doing schedule for Friday. Exactly the same thing. And it will appear here. As you can see, I can move this if I want to. Likewise, let's say that this task, prepare company agreement, is not important for this week. I can just postpone it to next week. And I will reevaluate that task next week. It will appear here, which is prepare partnership agreement. But for some tasks, let's say this one, that are very, very important, you might want to block time, which is you can drag it, drop it in your calendar, and then increase the size if you want to, so that you're sure that you will dedicate the time required for this task to be completed. So that's really how it should be done. You could go through all of your tasks and decide for each one if you need to schedule, postpone, or block time, or you can leave some of them here because you think that, okay, I'm not going to decide right now, which is also very, very useful. Let's say that this one I need to do today. And I'll leave the rest like this, and should be good to go. Another feature which is quite handy is that you can use the smart scheduling functionality, which we will add more functionalities in the future. But the idea is that sometimes you have a task and you're like, okay, I want to do this tomorrow, but I need, let's say, 30 minutes. But I don't really want to say exactly when. And as you can see, I could say at 2 p.m., but maybe I don't want to bother with selecting a specific time, and I want to let routine allocate 30 minutes of time as soon as possible. And you could be more specific. You could say tomorrow afternoon for 30 minutes. And likewise, it will find 30 minutes of time between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. And if I press enter, it should, as you can see, allocate some time in my calendar. So that's another functionality which is very useful for planning. And we will again expand that concept later. The way we have designed routine is by combining this kind of week view, which is the planner, but also another screen which is all about focusing on what is happening today, which is called today. This should be pretty familiar to people who have used before task management tools like Todoist, Things, etc., because that's how it's supposed to happen, which is you have the task of the day. You don't have this weekly view, but you have the task of the day. For people that are more used to calendar tools, this is familiar. This one, not so much. But that's what we really want to do, because we want you to focus on what matters today. And so this screen features the tasks of the day, but also the events of the day. That's the whole idea. Now, there is a really specific aspect to routine that you will not find anywhere else. So let me drag this here. If I go to the settings and to calendars, you will see that my calendars are categorized as either primary or secondary. And that's a really neat feature that allows you to indicate to routine which events from which calendar, basically, the events will actually take up some of your time. So said differently, all the events from those two first calendars will take up some of my time by default, whereas the events from the third calendar, are just for tracking. Because very busy people have a lot of calendars for, I don't know, tracking maybe colleagues, just making sure that I see the events of a colleague so that I can very quickly schedule a meeting when this person is available. For other people, they have a shared calendar with their loved one, which has some events that represent stuff like picking up the kid, or maybe the cleaning person coming to the house, stuff like that. Those events don't always represent something that you will need to attend, but it's nice to track. So that's why routine distinguishes both, so that you know exactly which events are going to take some of your time. That is going to help for the screen that I'm going to show, which is today, but also for routine to know when you're actually available. Said differently, those events from this calendar, routine will suppose that you are available. It's not the case for those events here. So if you go to the planner, you see all events from all of the calendars, but the one from the yellow one, which is the secondary calendar, are grayed out because, again, they represent events from secondary calendar, what we also call passive events, as opposed to active events, which take up some of your time. When it really becomes interesting is in the 2-day screen, because in the 2-day screen, we only display active events. So events that will, again, take some of your time. So if you go back to the planner, you will see that I've got a nanny event here and a concert at the same time. But in today, I only see concert because the nanny one comes from a secondary calendar. I don't need to see it on a daily basis because I need to focus on what is happening in my life. But if I want to plan or see everything and glance at everything, I can switch to the planner and I see all the events. But for every event, you can change that. That's the default. Let's say that the concert is actually the concert of my wife, maybe, and I'm not going to go to the concert. It's just something that I'm tracking. So you could just open this event and click on ignore. And ignore is going to turn the event into a passive one. As you can see now, it's grayed out. And if I go back to today, it has disappeared. But if I go to the planner, it's still there. So it's very easy to, again, move things from one to another. The idea is that your today screen should always only feature the events that are going to take your time. That really is going to help you have a clear view of what you need to attend and what you need to do. That's the whole goal of this. As you can see, if I hover over meetings, you can join the calls from here, but I can also open the meeting and join it from here. And I can also use the dashboard, which with the control space hotkey, and I can join also from here. So there are multiple ways to join meetings, but that's the idea. And then you can take notes in your meetings. As you can take notes, if I double click on a task, I open the task, I can take notes as well by just selecting one of those templates or pressing enter for having an empty notes. And same thing for people. So if I go here and I open Nicholas, you will see that I have some notes as well that I can take, etc., etc., etc. Now let's talk about the notes, because that's where things become really, really interesting. Routine has been designed so as to combine task, notes, events, which are your calendars, and people. For a simple reason is because on the market, up until now, you had to pick one or the other. Task management on one side, notes taking on the other, and you couldn't really have one tool that combined the features of both, which doesn't make sense to us at least. And task management is so tightly linked to time management that, again, it didn't make sense to have task management on one side and calendar on the other. That's why we combine both. And contact management makes just a lot of sense with time management. But the way we've designed routine is as a graph. What we are really building is a productivity assistant, a tool that is going to hold all of the information about you. So all of your notes, your tasks, your events, the people that you meet, so that you can enrich that with more information, and that later you can really use that information in a way that makes you even more productive through automation or just through better visualization of that information to act upon what is important. That's really our vision. I'm talking about this because, again, you're going to see that the notes, which is our next chapter, is really just an extension of every other object. So when I say object, I mean task is an object, event is an object, a person is an object, a page, which I haven't covered yet, is also an object, even a day is an object. And for every object, you can enhance them with notes. And it's always the same thing. So if I double click on the task, I've got the notes as I showed you before. If I go to an event, same thing, I've got some notes. A person can have notes. A page is just notes about a topic. I can create a new page. It's going to be something like, I don't know, stuff. And I can take some notes. It's going to be always the same thing. Now, the notes are really always, again, going to be the same. So if I open this marketing sync meeting, I can press enter. I've got a / command to use the basic stuff, but I can also use Markdown if you are familiar, which is, for instance, the hashtag and a space to put a heading. So let's say topics, press enter, then I can put a star, space to do a bullet point, and I can discuss one point, a second point, a third point, enter, enter to go back, another heading, which would be action items. And then I can say slash to do to create a to do and say, I don't know, come back to lawyer, let's say, and press enter, etc., etc., etc. It does look very similar to all notes-taking apps that you've probably used, like Evernote, Notion, etc. But there is one aspect which makes it very, very different, which is that the tasks, I mean, the checkboxes, in our case, in the case of routine, are full-fledged tasks. As you can see, I can open the task, I can add more notes, or I can schedule, postpone, etc., etc., etc. Those are real tasks. It's not just a checkbox that can be ticked and unticked, and you can't do anything with it. In our case, it's a real task. So it could be negotiate contract, and even you can use natural language to plan right away. It could be next week, and that's it. Or it could be, I don't know, discuss branding issue on Friday, something like this. So as you can see, it makes it very, very easy to first record real actions, also plan very, very quickly, but also, as you can see on the right-hand side, you've got a whole history of past meetings. And we basically resurface all the other events with the same participants, which in this case are just those two people. And you can see with this icon that I have taken notes in that meeting, but also that this meeting has notes, but has also 3 tasks that were not marked as completed. So there might be something that we need to discuss in the current meeting about those 3 items that were not completed. Why is that? So that's something to discuss. So it's really easy to quickly navigate from one meeting to another by clicking, but also to detect that some things were probably not completed and they should have been. So that's for meetings. But again, meetings, routine is not a meeting notes taking app. It's just the result of having notes tied to events. Likewise, in the pages, if I were to do bracket and closing bracket, but just touched, it creates a task. And same thing, I can do something tomorrow, and it's the same thing. The house, as I showed you, you can have many things here, and you don't have to create checkboxes. You can have simple bullet points if you wanted to. The beauty is that you can write something, and when you are ready to act upon it, so it could be, I don't know, clean windows. When you are ready to act upon it, just add bracket at the beginning of it, and it turns into a task. And so again, next week, and that's it. You've planned it. So it's really, really easy to group information together, act upon them, plan them if you want to, but not necessarily. So you really have this flexibility of either playing with notes or playing with tasks if you want to. The other thing is that, as you can see here as well, you've got what we call a context, which is the parent object that hold the tasks. So if I click on it, I go back to the original holder of the task. Likewise here, it's a meeting with sales. So negotiate contract. I don't remember exactly what is this. I click, I go back to the context. I got more information, and then I can really more effectively do what was required. And so that's why this is really, really helpful to group information together. You might ask, yes, but what about tags? Actually, tags we will add, but we don't have yet because we think that the way we organize information together is the same as tags, because you can group information together, but you don't have to use something manual as tags. This way of grouping information feels a lot more natural to us. For instance, if you wanted to create several tasks that relate to this person, just create them here and you're all good. Or you can group them by a topic, or movies to watch, etc. Or you could create a tag just like this, and that's it. And whenever you have a task and you want to add it to a tag, all you have to do is open it, and you can move it to tag, and that's it. You've just tagged it. It's the same thing. The difference is that you can add text, you can add images, etc., etc., etc. So it's a lot more flexible than a tag in other tools. What else? I wanted to say that you can also decide where an object is going to be stored whenever you capture it. Let me show you. When I open the dashboard, I could say something like come back to client, and I could say, okay, this, by using the chevron character, you can decide to store this object in a page, a task, an event, or even a person very, very easily. So you could say, okay, this, we need to discuss it in Marketing Sync. I can create a task, or I can add some text as I want. Let's create a task, and that's very easy. Likewise, it could be something like discuss raise, and I'm going to put that in Nicholas. And same thing, that's something that I'll be able to discuss once I have another point with Nicholas, etc., etc., etc. So very easy to categorize information when I capture it, instead of capturing it in the inbox and then moving it to some place and then moving it around, which obviously is a several step process, not always easy. The final piece, which I already covered at the beginning, is with the dashboard. So the dashboard you should use as much as possible, because again, it features the task of the day, the event to come. You shouldn't really go back to the app that often. Most of the time, you've got all the information that you need right there. So really use the keyboard shortcut as many as, 100 times a day, just to check, okay, do I have time to work, or should I be preparing myself to move to a meeting or something like this. Also, the console allows for a lot more things that I showed. And again, I'll point you to our knowledge base that has a lot more information. But just to show some, you can create recurring tasks, and I could be called investors every month, starting on the 20th of July until 2025. And in this instance, as you can see, it's going to recur 30 times every time on the 20th of July. That's a bit of a complicated case, but it could be something like, I don't know, call somebody, I'm running out of ideas, every work day, etc., etc., etc. Something that is quite powerful with this is that those recurring tasks, you can very much decide to store them again in a context. So it could be call parents in personal, and same thing, call parents every week, let's say, in personal. That's really powerful, again, because you're organizing stuff in a specific context, so that you don't have to look for them. Everything is neatly organized there. I find it particularly useful if you want to keep track of reminders health-wise, such as, I don't know, like schedule, booster shot, vaccine shot, and you put that in health, a health page, for instance, if you want. But anyway, you get the point. But yes, the dashboard, you should really use as much as possible. The console has a lot more functionality, which brings me to the final aspect, which is our knowledge base. which is on base.routine.co. That contains a lot of documentation about the basic objects and actions on the tasks, on the events, on the pages, etc., but also the keyboard shortcut, the console with its syntax and all the possibilities, escaping, redirecting, etc. Some of them I've shown, not all of them. Also about the integrations, how to take notes, how to use templates, etc., etc. And finally, some stuff that you will find interesting, like the roadmap that you can use to upvote for your favorite features so that we know what we should focus on. You can open an upvote. Also the changelog, which features all the things that we've changed, and the community so that you can join on Slack and Discord so that you can interact with us and let us know what you think about the different features, but also bugs that you found or feature requests that you would like to make. That's it for me. Thank you for staying until the end, and let us know what you think. Thank you.